Some people won't go to the gym because they don't want to feel the physical pain of soreness. Some people won't go learn new things because they don't want to feel the psychological pain that they're dumb. Psychological pain and physical pain are some of the drivers that make people steer away from staying sober. At the end of the day, if you want to stay sober on a Saturday, on a weekend, you need to get over that psychological and that physical obstacle. I was watching a show earlier today, and this guy in the show, he's going through withdrawals from morphine. Morphine is an opioid, and from my own experience, and then from doctors' notes, opioid withdrawals won't kill you. They'll make you feel like you want to die, but they won't kill you. And those are some of the worst withdrawals that I've ever experienced. Those and Xanax are some of the most horrible withdrawals. Alcohol, Xanax, and heroin, all three of them are equally bad. But one of the reasons that most people won't stay sober is because they fear that physical and that psychological pain. If you're afraid of a pain, then you're going to keep on doing the same things that avoid the pain. But in the case of substance use, in the case of behavior change, those exact steps that you're taking put you deeper and deeper and deeper in a hole. When I first started smoking, it was small. Little red 30 oxy, right? I'd snort that, or I'd use half of it, and it would last me all day. Get high, and quite frankly, it would feel amazing. I'm not going to knock that. People use drugs because they're a solution and they make them feel a different way. Most drug addicts are some of the smartest people out there because they found solutions to problems, even though those solutions cause more problems eventually. However, when we're going to fast forward, not from like the first 2-3 months of me using opioids, but now we're going to go to year 3 and 4 of me using opioids, and I have to IV inject some heroin, and at that point I'm using about 3.5 grams a day, 4 grams a day. It's costly, 1. 2, it's a little bit more dangerous. 3, the pain that came with the withdrawals would stop me from wanting to quit. I'd get high and then I'd be like, I gotta change, I gotta make some changes in my life. And then once the withdrawals started to hit, I would revert back to the old thinking, I just need to go figure out how to get dope. If you are somebody who is in a position and you want to stop using, and you're not really in a bad position where you need to go to rehab, I get it. If you have a friend or a family member who you know is using or over drinking, and they're not so far out that they ran into the money barrier, because that's usually what stops people. The funds for using drugs runs out, and so that's why they make the change, or they feel forced to make the change. If anybody that you know is in that situation, here's a couple quick tips. 1, encourage them. Encourage them to seek support as they see fit. Nobody likes to get told what to do, especially when you're trying to take away a solution from somebody's life. The concept that physical and psychological pain stops people from making change is not just a concept. It's actually backed through science. The NIDC, I think is what it is, NIDA, National Institute of Drug Addiction. And then the other one is the DCM. I'm not a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that, so I don't know these off the top of my head. But what I do know is that once I started to feel the small inklings of withdrawals, I'd immediately go figure out how to get over it. There was this one time, me and a homie, we ran schemes all the time. Me and him would work together to get drugs, to get dope, and then we'd use together. This was early 2000s, so Narcan had just came out. Narcan saves lives, if you didn't know, for people who use opioids. It is specifically and only for individuals who use opioids. It doesn't work for benzos, it doesn't work for cannabis, it doesn't work for anything, alcohol or anything like that. Narcan had just came out. Me and the homie hit a couple licks. We made our money for that day. We went and got our dope, and we needed a place to use. He told me he had a friend that we could use at their house. It was basically just like a using den. As long as we brought our own stuff, we broke him off with just a little bit, we would be good to go, and we would hang out. It wasn't, to us, it was a social activity, but really we were just a bunch of drug addicts spending time together and using together. Pull into the guy's driveway, walk into this house, you could already smell the odor of heroin, of opioids. All the lights were off, and a couple people, when I walked into the house, there was a walkway, and immediately to the left of the walkway there was the den. And then if you kept on going forward, you'd go into the kitchen. So me and the homie went into the kitchen, and we grabbed some foil, we grabbed our tutors, and we went and got high because we were already starting to get our withdrawals, what we would call withdrawals. Really, we just wanted to get high and didn't know how to deal with uncomfort. This guy comes into the kitchen and he sees us smoking, and I can tell that he was hurting. And by hurting, I mean I could tell that he was withdrawing on his own. And when I saw him hurting, I knew what that was like. And it is a shitty feeling. So I broke him off with just a little bit of what I had. I was like, here, dog, just to make you feel a little bit better. I can't give you too much, but I can help you out just a little bit because that sucks. What you're going through right now sucks. He was so grateful. He smoked his stuff. My homie looked at me like I was crazy, but I was like, bro, even at that stage in my life, I knew that if you gave, you would automatically receive back. That's not the point of this story, though. Me and him are sitting there smoking, and you could hear the foil rattling. You could hear from the inhale that we would take using the tutor. Go into the living room, and I see somebody not nodding off, but eyes were completely closed. And their face started to turn like pale. And they weren't breathing very much. I asked one of the other guys around there, I was like, yo, how much does this fool use? They're like, we don't know. We weren't paying attention. And I put my finger underneath his nose, and I can barely get any type of breathing there. One of the main things that was going on at this time is that people would get good batches of some good dope, and they'd use it and use it and use it. And for the most of the time, when that happened, they would end up overdosing and die. I was afraid this person was going to die, and if they died there in the house, that was a bigger issue because that area, that spot that we wanted to use at would be no longer available. We couldn't take anybody to the hospital at the time because the laws at that time said that if you brought somebody with the overdose to the hospital, everybody that was there, the person who brought him, the person who was using, they would get charged, right? The police had to be called. It's just like a gunshot wound. Police have to get called for a gunshot wound. Well, same thing for overdoses. Police had to get called. So in this window of time, early 2000s, what you would see happen is people would overdose. Their friends, their using buddies would go take them to the hospital, and they'd just throw them out of the car and then jet off. Well, society didn't like that, so they started chasing people down, using license plate to catch people, and they would charge individuals because families get really charged up emotionally. How can you do that to somebody, right? You gotta understand that there is a different world and a different set of rules when you are playing in that world. So we didn't follow the rules that everybody else followed. We followed the rules of we take care of ourselves, and for most of us, we also followed the rules that you don't hurt women and children. But if somebody was about to overdose, then I had a personal rule that I wasn't going to take you to the hospital because I wasn't going to jeopardize myself to get you taken care of. This guy, barely breathing, and I think he's about to overdose. Now, I'm high myself, so where we were at, about a block and a half away, was one of the other homies that I knew. And I knew homie had some Narcan because he had kept it for himself. I run down the street, hit the corner, and I'm panting, and I'm running as fast as I can. I get to the dude's house. I'm like, hey, bro, let me get that Narcan from you. And he's an older cat, and he's like, you ain't getting my Narcan, fool. Like, you look good. I was, but there's a dude up the street, and he's probably overdosing. He's like, that ain't my problem. And I ain't giving up my Narcan. Because at the time, Narcan, you had to get prescribed it. It wasn't as easily as accessible as it is today. So he basically told me, no, I ain't giving nothing up. You better figure that out. I was like, cool, dog. Went back up the street, and we had another substance that we gave him. Homie starts to wake back up. Not the best idea. I don't recommend any of this. But what I do recommend is that if you are somebody who is dealing with the substance use, alcohol, opioids, benzos, weed, even if you consider that a problem, you're going to feel some sort of psychological and physical withdrawal. And that's because you put something in your body that did not need to be there. Our bodies don't produce opioids. Our bodies don't produce those like benzos that get us high. So because we put something inside of our bodies that didn't belong, our bodies had a natural reaction, which was freaking out its own system. And because it freaked out its own system, that's where withdrawals come from. It's your body punishing you because you chose to take an undue high. There are natural highs that you can take. It takes your body time to recalibrate and start releasing dopamine in different ways after you've gotten clean. And that can go in between years, right? That's what a lot of people don't like, is you got like 2 years of your body recalibrating once you stop using or once you start working on yourself in a personal development manner. Because quite frankly, anytime that you stop something that you really want to do, you are developing a solid mindset. You are developing a steel fortress inside of your head where desire no longer drives you. For drug addicts, they don't have a drug addiction problem. They have a desire problem. That desire is to escape. That desire is to feel better. That desire is to eliminate pain and or seek some sort of pleasure. In that chase of desire is where we find substance use at. You have to earn your dopamine releases. Those are earned in different ways. Going out into nature, you have to do something. You have to go and participate in the natural environment in order to get that dopamine high. You have to knock out 100 burpees in order to feel good. You might have to do 10. I don't know how fat you are. I don't know how out of shape you are. But depending on your physical fitness, the amount of burpees that you do can change before your brain starts to release that dopamine again. If you know somebody who's struggling with some sort of substance use, their dopamine calibration is off, and one of the best things that you can do to help them out is give them small ways of getting that dopamine released. Acupuncture is a great tool for alleviating some of the withdrawals. But the withdrawals is the payment that everybody is paying for the unearned high of the drugs, alcohol, whatever that substance is. It should not stop you whatsoever. If you have the cojones to put something inside of your body that you did not need to in order to seek some sort of pleasure, then you must understand there's a yin and a yang. There is a cause and effect. There is a law of polarization. If you're going to experience a significant high, then you better know you're going to experience a significant low. In order to balance that out, you have to remove substances from your body, which can be painful. And most of the time, that pain is mental. Yes, there are physical withdrawals that come with it. You're shaking, you're shivering, you're hurting. But there's a psychological piece to it too. And if one thing I can share with you in this video is that psychological piece is I'm paying the dues for my unearned high. It helped me overcome the desire to go back to using. Psychological and physical pain, they're equal. Our brain doesn't know the difference between certain pains. So if you have somebody that's struggling with substance use, or if you're struggling with substance use and you want to stay sober this weekend, this Saturday, I strongly recommend, 1, reducing the amount of substances that you use. 2, for sure, going and getting some sort of medical advice, because that's just honestly liability. I think you could do it on your own. I run a program that can help you out too, but if you need medical attention, then you need to go seek medical advice first. But most people think they're tough because they're using drugs. Really, the weakest of us use drugs. And yes, there is solutions within substances. I agree. There is never a long-term solution, and that solution usually fizzles away. So don't let the psychological, don't let the physical withdrawal stop you from making a long-term change. One of my favorite quotes, one of my favorite phrases is, long-term longevity over short-term success. In the long run, not using substances is far better than in the short run just kind of getting high. I hope this helps you out. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you're interested in the program that I run, drop me a comment. If you don't want to do it publicly, shoot me a message at Nico_speaks_ on IG. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve, but you need to stop doing this, and you need to understand that your withdrawals, your physical pain, your psychological pain is coming because you owe the world, the universe, your body for the undeserved, unearned pleasures that you took from that substance.